Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. P, and I want to welcome you to the second part of a very interesting conversation that we started off last week about pornography. Now, just as a recap, for those of you who were not here last week, you missed half your life, like literally half your life. Now, we were talking about pornography. We had a very interesting story from Dr. Kezabo, who happens to be the lead on the Pornography Control Committee. Yes, she even is. She's the detector of pornography. Now, to a lot of you people out there, because we've heard people say that it's not such a big deal. But from the discussions that we had last week, it actually looks like it is a bigger deal than we thought. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have been joined by what somebody mentioned before we went on air. Is one of Faisal's friends. Yes. Oh, but welcome to the show. Now, back to pornography. As I mentioned before we closed in our last discussion last week, it's almost a catch-22. Some people would prefer their teenage sons engage in pornography rather than engaging in live sex. And others are saying, you know what, because where are they going to learn these things from? Because there's no place where boys can be taught.
So in other words, masturbation is practice.
No, as in the styles that you see. Yeah.
You'd rather
the lines are drawn.
look at it visually than real going into it, and now you're in a prostitute. It's actual, just because like it or not, young men are always going to experiment.
Okay.
That's just how it is.
Faisal, there's one thing I really need to say here, that pornography is a script. It's a scripted scripted play, where someone is told, now put your leg up, now do this. So it's not real.
Yeah.
So you're saying so your sons should go and learn from something that's not real. What does that do to them? It puts their expectation very high, and if ever they get their spouse, they will expect them to do the things that girl who was acting in the porn play was doing.
They'll put a pole in their bedroom and expect the spouse to swing around it.
But as like most things in Uganda and the way spouses come these days, they will not be able to stretch. So I think that's the real issue.
There was a second thing that I really want to pick up on. I think it was Colin last week who told us about us living in a very sexualized society and brought in the idea of the sengas. I can tell you with certainty that what's happening in Uganda right now is that even the sengas have tried to push the envelope. That what was cultural and sitting girls down and telling them about sexual things, sengas are now acting porn movies and selling them.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And now, just tell me, if you brought someone who was still deeply rooted in their culture and you played that Senga movie, do you think they would relate? They wouldn't. So what does that show you? That we've gotten to a certain place where we are pushing everything and still pretending that we are in another place.
Personally, I feel that's the era we live in now. We live in a digitalized era. I don't know, I've heard of they call bridal showers where there are sengas. But now, I don't know, which sengas have to now be digital. You have to have a digitalized way of having a senga. So, if
you're a senganga, you don't have a katambi or a video.
Yeah, so I know, you see, it is wrong, but that's where we are heading. If I want to know certain things about sex, why do I have to look for a senga? Yet I can just type in a few things, X, Y, and a few things, and I'm in the site.
So I think it's Martin Luther who said that just because it's a law does not make it right, because you can have a government put in place a law that's wrong and enforce it, and it was passed through the legal structures and enforce it. Like so a law of separating black and white.
It's legally right.
It's legally right, but
by the laws of science, it's wrong.
Yeah, but it's wrong. It's not right to separate people by their race or color. For example,
a good example to support you is that before they used to sterilize people who are mentally insane, mentally unstable. And so legally it was right because there was a law, but biologically it's wrong.
Right?
So yes.
So the point I want to put forward is, can we just for today, today on this very important topic, not justify something wrong or a vice happening because it happens? Because the point is that if it's a vice, it's happening. Do you see what I mean?
And everybody is doing
Right?
it.
And that's a generalization that's wrong. So let me just say my piece. Last week, Colin said, I was talking about a role that I think parents need to play in guiding their children about pornography and not, dishing out the responsibility to other people. And just to show, just today, we what do we open with? The Sengas who were sending the kids to help are taking them over the cliff.
Because they are CDs
So I am not a CD, I am not a video, I am living and I have a child. And listen, last week, Colin, you did say that parents are not equipped if it's not both a husband and a wife in a home and having kids, so they're not equipped, they're not tooled and equipped to talk to kids about these things. But let me finish, Peter. I'm going to just 1 minute, just 1 minute. I know, not just for me, but so many other people who've been raised by single parents, who are able to sit us down and give it to us and tell us about sex and this kind of thing. So the point I am making, and I still would like to firmly put on the table, is that when parents give up their responsibility of having to have the sex conversation, because again, back to Colin, what Colin said, and I totally agree with him, the way the culture has sort of set us up to say, oh no, my goodness, those are bad manners and you can't talk about these things, okay? Then you leave porn to introduce sex to your kids, or your house girl who is watching porn and sometimes practices it on your kids, or all these sorts of scenarios. So I think that part of the solution for us is going to be that parents just look this whole conversation squarely in the face and say, we need to talk about sexuality. We need to talk about sexuality with our kids. We can't duck anymore because the reality is going to be skewed.
People need to take responsibility for the sexual education for the healthy sexual education of their children.
True. Let me just put a scenario here. Before this show began, there were clips and all that going out on social media and what was that building? It was building curiosity. What pornography does is plays with the psychology. They in fact, those days I used to see those porn clips and all, and the clips, not the movies.
Did you see?
No, listen. When you used to see these
And
clips,
it just came to extract confessions today.
No, these are not confessions. When you see those clips,
Let you go down.
at that age, they are, you see, they bring a lot of excitement, a lot of curiosity. The problem there wasn't that my parents weren't there to tell me about my sexuality. No. The problem is that the access. If I have any access to something I'm so curious about, anything I'm so curious about, if you told me today that there's something in Peter's phone, anything that I would
go to steal his phone.
No, not steal it.
Break
But
the
if
phone.
I get the access if I have access into the phone, it doesn't matter how many times I've been told never look into someone's
But let me
phone.
break it to you. There is something on Peter's
And then there are two things that I don't want us to lose sight of. Number one is what Colin said last week about the progression of porn. I said it and then he added something that was very interesting. We talked about addiction, escalation, inaction, and everything that follows after that. That someone will see something, they get addicted, they want to see more, and what was giving them a high today is not giving them a high tomorrow, so they want to push the envelope, go into incest, go into bestiality, and go into I don't know what. We don't want to lose sight of that because that's real. And secondly, the other thing I don't want us to lose sight of is the psychological beat that happens to the brain that's watching porn. That's to the point that I wanted us, before we leave this show, to connect those dots to the point that we are now seeing murders in our country of women. In Wachiso, we saw the ones in NTV. But from the psychology point of view, because I'm a psychologist, it is pointing to sadism. There's something called sadomasochism that's there.
People
But sadomasochism is that even the person who is receiving the sex
needs pain.
needs the pain and needs the pain and
Need someone screaming and
until blood comes. So those 2 points.
Me, I'm so shy.
I don't want us.
Come on, that's not
I feel like
someone just said
Let her finish.
Let her finish.
Yes. So I don't want us to lose sight of the progression of the addiction and what happens thereafter. But I also don't want us to lose sight of what is happening currently in our country, because everybody wants to run away and say, is porn the most important thing that we can talk about? They always bring up the cancer machine. They bring up pregnant, girls who need pads to go back to school. Why can that money buy these things? But I wanted us to bring it back to this table and discuss how many young boys are in a certain dilemma after watching that porn, either exposed by their peers or their parents, so that they can learn these things.
Whatever way they come exposed, they need help. Is what
I'm saying they need help. Then secondly, we are getting these murders, and from the psychology point of view, they are really connected to someone who has seen something that is sadistic and is acting it out.
So I just want to be the first responder.
Just before that, Faisal has been bubbling over.
Let me start with what you said. The whole parents need to talk about sexuality whole bit. There's a problem we've had in Uganda for a very long time. HIV/AIDS. Let me just use HIV/AIDS as an example. And I've grown up from childhood, and people tell parents, parents, talk to your kids about HIV, talk to your kids about HIV. I didn't grow up with my dad. We've even never ever talked about it. My mom was abroad, unfortunately. So even when we talk about it, it's not that broad, And then there are parents in the village who still don't know about these things, who still believe, if my child gets circumcised, he can't get AIDS. So the whole thing of saying parents should talk to your children about sexuality, some parents don't even know what porn is. Like, let me give you an example. I grew up with my grandma. I do not think up to now she knows what porn. I don't think she. No, let me first finish.
You think parents are that stupid?
Listen. No.
That's
because I'm talking. Me when I'm talking about the reality. I'm not going to talk about something in a bubble. I'm not going to talk about something in a bubble. You see, this boy, the boy was in Mbara.
Okay, now
right?
Faisal, we do need to get into a break. But as soon as we come back, we're going to get back to the reality. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are here on your favorite show called Men, and we are talking about pornography, the effects, and yes, what it can or cannot do to you. Don't forget, this show is brought to you by Obulamu. We want to hear from you. Our hashtag is NTV MEN. Let's talk on Twitter, or you can follow us on Facebook. Just like our page and engage in the conversations there. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back from the break. If you've just joined us, this is the second part of the show that has been talking about pornography. Now, we're here at the Sheraton Kampala Hotel, and Faisal was about to bust. Okay, yes.
And I'll still continue. So the boy from Mbara, I'm not going to assume, but let's say, if you go to, I've been to Mbara before, I've seen how people live. And I know some people do not know about porn, because I talk to them, and the way they talk to me, it's like, they've even never seen anyone without a top, like a naked woman without a top. So how are you going to expect that parent to talk to their child about pornography? Then, doctor, you said something. And doctor, I support you. I know the dangers of porn. But this is the thing. Most of the people find out about the dangers of porn when it's too late. Yeah? Because there is no one There's no government program talking, because porn has been there for a very long time. Ugandans complain about, you know, the whole porn ban thing and $88,000 and all, because for porn, as you see, for porn it's a choice. Yeah, and for when it comes to something like menstruation, it's not a choice. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. It's going to happen.
So
I want.
I haven't yet even touched calling yet.
Okay, you knew. No. I think what Faisal is trying to say is that whether we like it or not, the reality is we come from a predominantly rural society across the country who do not have, not necessarily from any particular region, who do not have access to a lot of these things and may have never seen them. And we all know that a lot of people see modern things, even some of them including toilets, for the first time when they go to urban areas.
Thank you.
Now, I gather his question is, so how is that parent who has never experienced this supposed to come in and advise their child about something they don't know about?
Exactly,
Peter,
because
that's because sex
Yes.
is not learned from pornography. Okay?
It's not supposed to be.
No, it's not learned from pornography. The reason why you are born is because your parents had sex. The reason why your parents were born is because your grandparents had sex. And they didn't need pornography to learn how to have sex.
What you know,
That's-
So what I'm calling
that wasn't my
so
point.
the point cannot be, you can't go as far as insult people to say that because they've never watched porn, they cannot talk to their kids about sex.
No, about porn. About
Right?
porn.
Okay.
Now to talk
number
about
two,
it.
number
Access
two,
to pornography.
number two, what's the coverage, phone coverage in Uganda? For smartphones?
22 million. 22
Oh,
million
and
22
phones.
million.
No, 22
Okay.
million phones, but
22
somewhere.
million phones. How
but,
many smartphones?
it-
Colin, you are the
Colin has
roughly
four-
2
four
million.
You've got details.
Yes,
on it.
yes, yes,
Right?
yes. So
But-
somewhere
but-
in the
but
region of
there's
about
increasingly a huge
4.5
number of
million people.
who've got smartphones.
But there's no
Okay.
direct correlation between
Okay,
having
so
Listen,
I am going. I'm
We're
going
talking
to.
digital.
Yes.
Alright?
So there is
because-
One at a
smartphones.
time.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
no.
what's going on right now, and for me, I think it's a dangerous trend to take. Unless I think we need to check this. Is we could make the pornography problem like a small little teeny thing. It's like a drop in this cup because we have a largely rural community, right? And yet we're not realizing that more and more people bank their money on phones. All right? People are more technology savvy. We just made that point last week. So we cannot turn around again and say, somehow,
But
please don't
so
say
wait.
this
This is
And
why-
and
this
Chris,
is why
Chris, the
we
other
should
the other
have
channel that you have
interrupted
not
because-
mentioned, the other channel that you have not mentioned that's a very big gateway is
Chibanda.
movie sharks.
Yeah.
Those Chibandas.
And they're
And
in
they're everywhere in the
nook
country.
of the country.
People are
You
exposed.
interrupted me. You interrupted me before.
What I want to clarify here is we have no problem with sex education. Maybe there is, but here to clarify here, sex education, when a parent comes in and talks to the child gets it from school, sex education clear. The problem is access to the pornography. If I'm a parent who has never had access to pornography, how am I going to be able to tell my child that, hey, if you keep watching pornography,
it's
you're
like-
going to
it's like
masturbate,
teaching someone
you're
about
going to
WhatsApp
what?
when
No, that's
you
the
go
issue.
I want
Is that
to
the
say something.
parent doesn't
Peter.
have, that's,
Consider
it's not
that.
in the
No,
law.
that's
Albert,
automatic.
I'm going to say something. I want to say something. So just, sometimes we get into these things and things get heated. But let's just center this down. Huh? There are 1 billion pornography sites on the internet.
And new ones every day.
1 billion. That's one for every 7 people on the planet. Planet is 7.2 billion. 1 billion porn sites on the internet. Data prices are falling. We want to get people to have more access to data because we want to give farmers access. We want to create innovation. We want to spur all those things. But by doing that, we're also letting in things like this. So these are the realities. Chris is talking about mobile phones. So there are about 5, 6, 7 million smartphones. But in Uganda. Those are people who actually have access to data and can get online. But That's nowhere. Actually, it's about 11. It's 34%, so about 11 million people have access to the internet. But that is nowhere compared to the reach of the Chibandas. And here's why, because we've done this. I did this campaign for a client. The guy records one DVD. The DVD goes to 30,000. They make 30,000 copies.
To all the Ugandas.
To all Ugandas.
They have an association.
Yes. That's the network. That's the multiplier effect you're talking about. So when you say it can't reach, of course it can reach.
No, but I think that we have not got to their point.
I
clarify for you, Faisal?
Yes.
Can I clarify for Faisal? I think Faisal was trying to say, how are you going to talk about what you don't know?
Correct.
We are talking about access and digital distance, that you can even be in Kampala, you're a parent who has never accessed those things just because of your generation, actually. That generation did not watch that. So his question was, how are you going to talk about what you do not know?
And I actually had a follow-up, but I was interrupted.
No. Now I'll clarify.
You have an open
But
mind.
I like how he came up with the fact that sex education, you don't need to have watched porn to warn anybody. You are providing a certain way of access, saying you can ask me anything if you are close to your child.
Yes,
Let me tell you something.
So they don't have to look for it anywhere.
Let me tell you something
From
very
porn.
small.
Yeah.
I've learned more about HIV from the government than I ever did from any of my family members. That's how serious. You see sometimes when government pours money in some projects, you people think, they don't work. But let me tell you something. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to see a UHMG video talking about HIV. I'm going to learn. The next day I'm going to see something else talking about HIV. I'm going to learn. The next day, because I'm not going to be with my parents all the time. So my follow-up was, instead of, bringing in all this money and say, we're going to ban porn in Uganda, you would rather teach people about the dangers of porn. Exactly like how they taught people about the dangers of alcohol, exactly like how they taught people about the dangers of cigarettes.
There you are.
Because I would love to take cigarettes because all my friends take cigarettes. But because, every time I get a cigarette, I remember that picture where, there's a rat in your lungs.
Yeah.
I don't even
Dead
know
rat.
where it comes from, but I just know there's a rat in the lungs and the guy is
And you're
smoking
not touching that
cigarette.
stuff.
And I'm like, no, I'm not going to touch that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch
Faisal,
that.
for me, what you have done for me tonight
Yeah.
is to bring home what everybody has been asking. Why are you putting so much money into sensitization and education? Because that's what they were asking me. 2 billion has been given to you. And the biggest part of our mandate that we're going to start with is to sensitize, is to educate.
So there's no machine.
Busted. Can I
The
show
whole
you?
time I thought there's a machine.
Can I show you the
my
machine?
phones,
Can I show you the machine? Faisal, do you want to see the machine?
Guys, I wanted to say something
Faisal
small.
is the
Let
machine.
her finish. Let her finish.
Yeah. So Faisal, please, with everybody who is watching, the machine is actually you and me.
Yes.
We are saying
So I'm getting some of the 2 billion.
If you want,
Yeah, depends
Yes.
on how you package yourself.
Yes. So the 2 billion is not even 2 billion anymore.
The government happened to the 2 billion.
No. As a committee, we have planned very well and strategized on how we are going to carry out our mandate. But the biggest part is going to be sensitization, as UHMG always does. We are partnering with people who are able to take our message to schools, to churches, everywhere. We want to reach every part of the country with the message that porn is there, it is real, it kills, it has real victims. Yes, it does kill, because I am relating
Dude,
this
when you're
sadistic.
bleeding while you do your thing,
Oh.
as we learned last week,
You have killed your manhood.
you're gone.
When a man loses his manhood, he has
That's
died.
died. I felt like killing, like
See, again, we're always in this
That
place
is
where
death.
I think that this is the thing about objectification.
Well, again, I think.
But Peter, I wanted to say something. I wanted to say.
Can you please continue with the objectification?
Yes. No. That's a dangerous thing. When you start saying, anyway, I was going to say, Peter, that this issue is not, and I think it's a dangerous thing when we have these conversations. When you have Chris, because Chris is such a
Passionate.
pivotal center that, you know, he's like the main vein of these conversations. Like, it's hard to deviate. But I wanted to say that, and whereas, I mean, children are an important focus for this country, that pornography is also in marriages. I mean, just think about it. If you're watching this show, just think about how many groups you're in that are only single sex. The only guys or the only girls.
The football group.
I mean, there are a lot of WhatsApp groups. But my point is, it's not only in young children. It's, yes, the young. This is what we're saying. Young people are at risk. They are prone because they're not as strong as people like you who talk about choices. But it's also in marriages. It's affecting people's ability to reproduce. Because think about it. I mean, why are people saying more and more couples are spending money on fertility treatment? It's because this stuff is there and it's affecting. And so I think that when we talk about desensitization campaign, you have to speak about it across the board. Yeah. It has to be, yes, young but risk.
Divorce
yes.
happening because a guy is into porn.
Yes.
And
the wife
is tired of competing
with
porn.
Let me just ask a small question.
And what does that do?
A small question to the professionals here. I thought regulated porn would be healthy for a married couple. I just regulated, which means I don't mean intensive, like bombard. I just mean.
Before we came on, I was saying to I think Milka was saying to her that married guys have learned how to watch porn have learned how to watch videos with no sound. they watch it. While the soccer matches on the TV.
I get where you're going, but what we're going to do is this: we're going straight into a break, and as soon as we come back, I think, guys, it's important that now we reach that point when we must talk solutions. If married, there's an increment in the consumption of pornography, what is driving it? Because you see, especially, why would a man in a married setting resort to pornography? Is he to blame, or is it his woman to blame? Yeah, because she's driving them there. I mean, now we're here at the Sheraton Kampala Hotel, and we are talking about pornography. It is a vice, it is a challenge, it's something that we can no longer bury our heads in the ground about. We have to deal with it and deal with it head on. Even if it costs us 2 billion shillings, it must be dealt with. We'll be right back after the break, and don't forget, this show is brought to you by Obulamo. Welcome back from the break. We're here at the Sheraton Kampala Hotel for our last session talking about pornography. Before we took a break, we were just about to talk about solutions, because there has to be a solution to all this. And also finding where the root problem is and how do we deal with it. Now, this is your show. We want to hear from you. Go to our Facebook page, like it, engage in the discussions that are going on there. On Twitter, our hashtag is NTV MEN. Solutions. Men are seeking.
Can I jump in on that?
Yeah.
Just give it a first shot. I think that there's very many, not too many, but a good number of people who are trapped with pornography. You could say they've been light users or moderate users, but because it's not so cool to come and say, hey guys, man, I'm struggling with porn. Mm-hmm. Or I'm into porn. It's not like kind of thing you say in the office or the kind of thing you say at home, but you know,
it's not the kind of thing you say
anywhere. Exactly. Yeah, but you know, someone is coming to your office, shut down the laptop. You know, there's all that going on, right? So I think the first thing for me would be to say we need to realize that if there is something that you are doing that you're not proud of, or you're not proud of a colleague knowing you're doing, or you know, society knowing you're doing, there's something wrong with it. I guess that's the thing that I would call an internal compass. There's a conscience. There's something that tells you it's not so cool. Okay, so just first of all, getting to realize that this could be a problem is one, but two, if you're speaking within the context of marriage, I think that cheating on a spouse is not just about physically sleeping with another person, whether the male or female. Because it's possible, especially for us as men, who can separate our mind from our heart, it's possible for a guy to be making love to an image he saw while sleeping with his wife.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's really terrible. It's like, you know, it's cheating at another level.
I like how everyone agrees.
Yeah. No, we're all men.
You all agree.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Chris is just like, it's something else.
No.
It's okay.
No, but we've got to say the truth on this show. I mean, this is why we're on NTV MEN.
I cannot.
Wow.
But
I wasn't. Let me just say this. I was not part of the people who agreed.
no, don't worry. You're good. You're good.
You're lying.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that is just realizing that if you are making love to your wife and say you're called Peter, and at that golden moment she's calling Tony, you know what I mean? It just feels like, chick, who is Tony?
So these are very real situations. Don't make light of it.
I know.
It happens to people.
I know. So what I am saying is that porn is
I'm
that.
sorry to interrupt, but I don't know why Ludo asks who's Tony. Like, she'll tell you, oh yeah, you know Tony.
You know, Tony, he's the neighbor.
But sometimes you know Tony because Tony is her ex-boyfriend.
I know.
Or her boss.
I know. So what I'm saying is that porn can be that other thing that's in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I think at that level, just by saying that's not good, if it's almost like if you don't want your spouse to do it to you, don't do it to them. So I think for us, it starts with just, for me, the realization, the turnaround, this story that we had from Dr. Kezabu last week, of this young man who, after he's tried to, have his way with this prostitute, and because he's over masturbated, stuff is not functioning, she helps him and it's not working, and they sit down naked on a bed in a lodge, and a prostitute educates him and says, boss, this is not your lane. Right? That moment is a turning point. And I think that if we all just stop and just say, look, this thing is not helping, I think that's a good first step. I wanted to say that as a first shot.
Okay.
Great stuff. Solutions. Clearly you don't have any.
Pornography leads to masturbation, and masturbation, while in controlled doses, is healthy. Over masturbation, or rather over ejaculation, has a very different effect on men. So when you always hear about how they tell boxers not to have sex, or sports teams, when they're preparing, they tell them not to engage in sex. Well, it is exhausting, but actually what happens is with repeated ejaculation, you reduce the amount of testosterone in your system. Now, whereas people think testosterone is about, it's a hormone, an enzyme that increases the aggression in men. It makes you more competitive, it makes you edgier, it takes you further, it makes you more persistent, you can push harder, you can last longer, you can do more stuff. When you're doing this masturbation, you're a happy guy. You're chilled out. You're just like, you know what? I've got my nut. I've busted. I'm fine. But the truth is, if you think about the way we are living life in this city, every day you have to get up and go look for money. You can't have the edge. You can't be like Chris. You can't be on the point all the time, every day. And so for me, my only solution is just, if you're not going to do it for the pleasure, then you have to understand you have to sacrifice it for the man that you need to become, for the vision that you need to chase. Because the future we're trying to build is big and it's difficult and it requires men to be focused. And we can't be that if we're always in that happy place. Yes, there is a place and a time for that happy place when you've ejaculated and you're in the glow. But that time can't be all the time. We shall never get anything done. We shall never follow up on things that we need to follow up on. We'll never accomplish tasks. You need that aggression. So every time you're out there just pouring the children in the sink. Just no. No.
Sink.
No,
I don't know.
I'll tell you what, before we come to your solutions. On a serious note, I rarely do agree with what Colin says, but on a serious note, because the truth. When you I study progressive societies, and if you look, at like the Asians and what do you call it, the Europeans, they don't get as much sex as the Africans. So I agree with you, because what testosterone does is it makes, and that's why they generally work harder than some of us. Because with us, the way we eat, and then like you see, you eat a lot, and then you're jerking off a lot, you're not going to do anything.
Man, there's no power in the village.
Your solutions, Alfred.
A mature man, any decision a mature man makes, good or bad, guy, the mind is a bit solid. You would call it solid, like a potato. But a kid, it's like a mashed. That's when you've boiled the potato. It's still soft. Anything you put in the mind, just a mere glance on a porn site, on a porn clip, can derail the mind. So what I know about people of my age, the more we watch, the more exciting. Even just hearing that there's a porn site, you'd want to check it out. So I don't know how you're going to tell someone that don't do it, because it's like a drug. It's like a drug. It's very hard to tell someone cocaine is bad until he's at that age of, hey, you're going to actually die. Like he has starting to, until someone sees blood, that's when he's like, oh shoot, I think I'm doing something wrong.
I shouldn't be shooting.
Yeah. So where am I going? I can't defend that side, but I can talk of the generation coming below. That if we can find a way of cutting down on the access, that access, having porn on your phone and your father, that's very dangerous. Because your kid wants to play games, just taps on an app and something comes up. So the access, that's something I feel, if you can be mature enough and know, I watch porn, but I'm not going to have porn sites, porn apps on my phone, on my tablet, on my laptop, magazines in my toilet. I'm not going to have that, but I watch it. If you can look after the next generation.
And
You're not having good sex.
Yes, your wrap up solutions.
You guys are talking about the solutions, but I feel like you missed some of the problems. I mean, like right now we're at Sheraton. Like if I told you to remove, these blinds and look down there, and I like that you sat here, so you can just look down there. You can look.
No, I know what's there.
Yes, Speak Road. There's Speak Road, and this is a road where kids pass. Kids from Nakasero Primary School, they are passing. These women these days start as early as 6. That's when the P7 kids are coming from Nakasero. They're going to come. They pass. They're like, Wamulabye, Walabya Kabinda. You get in P7. This is where it's going to begin. And then there's the newspapers. However much we ignore it, and I know, people go on TV, we're going to battle porn and this, but the newspapers are there. You're not going to run any sensitization campaign when you're going to enter class, you're going to try to preach to people. I have my newspaper. I'm going to just wait for it to get out, then I just open and, I go on. So my solution is for the young generation, for the kids and all that, my cousins, my sisters, my brothers, because I think about them, I care about them. I think we should start early, because you see, what I loved about the government when it combated the whole cigarette smoking and all, they got those posters and they put them in schools. They put them in primary schools. They put them. I remember I started seeing those things in my P5 before I even touched a cigarette. So in other words, when I used to look at people smoking cigarettes, I didn't want to do it at all. However much they used to tell me, it's relieving, I'm going to feel good. But the fact that they preached to me the disadvantages of smoking cigarettes before I even ever did it, that was enough. Because every time I get the cigarette, I'm going to know what's happening to me. Then for your generation, the gone generation, you can tell them watching porn is going to make them poor. You'll see if they'll do it. Or you just tell them, just tell them, my friend Albert, if you watch porn, by the time you reach 30 years, you're not going to be able to have sex. No man fears the feeling of not being able to have sex, because that's pivotal in a man's world. That's like one of the things you're supposed to do. You're supposed to have sex before you die. I mean, Adam did this, that's why we're here.
I don't think your dad had sex, but all right, Dr. As we wrap up,
Yes.
your words of wisdom. I just want to, I know we're pressed for time, but also just to just highlight on one thing that my friend here did mention. I actually alluded to it. Are women driving men to porn?
Okay, thank you very much. I like how he has gone about, but we have said so many things, and last week we said very many important things.
But continue. I like where you're going. You're talking about me, so
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It seems that just like many people out there, you believe we will do one thing and not do the other. Yes, all the complaints, all the things we've got from schools are about students sharing high-up, news, and we're going to look into that. So in other words, our role is to sensitize and educate. It is also to prohibit, to show prohibited items, and we are expecting people to comply. And also our role is actually to also apprehend and prosecute. In other words, the law gives us that power. For someone who you'll engage with and say, well, you're selling Chibanda, and in Chibanda you're selling all these things, and we have engaged with you and we have sensitized people about it, but you're still selling this, then the arm of the law will catch up with you, of course. So in other words, this is like a 360 degrees kind of thing, that we don't only deal with people and telling them in a participatory manner what should be done, because already people know what should be done. But some people are choosing just to close their eyes and keep doing it. So for those, there is also a solution to that. For ISPs, like your MTNs and Airtels and all that, we know that so much goes into the phones, and they've all been talking about it, on WhatsApp. That's where you exchange, even what you want and what you don't want still comes through. Yeah. That is one other way we're going to look at. We're going to make sure we engage the ISPs, but through their regulatory body, the UCC. Sit down and we will tell them what we think. They will have to tell us what they think. But the ultimate goal is to make sure that we control, filter, and block what comes to your phone. Okay. Of course, this is going to increase some kind of
what is already on the phone.
MBs that they will require. I mean, they might sell it a bit higher, but we will control it at a certain level where it doesn't come to you. Yeah, so that is also something we are looking at. So we are looking at many things, but there's something I still quickly wanted to go back to. That what we have seen with porn, for me, was sworn into office 3 weeks ago, but I have learned so much that I could never have learned in my whole life if I was not looking for it. We have learned that porn drives masturbation, and you have heard the things that come out of masturbation. We have known that porn drives rape, because all the women, I mean, the script has an agenda, and the agenda is normally to objectify women, let's just say. I heard you saying, oh, even cars use these things, they use women to sell, but that is objectification of women. That's another topic we can talk about. Get her, slap her, beat her, dehumanize her, push her down. Then even when you finish, ejaculate on her face, or urinate on her. That is what porn is about. I have watched some things which are very scary. So,
that is not
So the question, the rhetoric question that we want to go away with is that what you would want for your daughter? Is that what you'd want for your sister? Those are some of the things that we can answer even when we leave national TV. Yeah.
Well, we have to time out, guys. But thank you very, very, very much. Yeah, this has been a tough one, I must say. It has been... Yeah, I think I've lost a few kilos. Yeah.
Since we've been back, this
is it. Huh? Yeah. But thank you very much, Dr. Kizabo, for first of all being so bold and being able to talk about issues that really are issues. We really do appreciate it, and we'll be calling on you again. So ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from the team. We have just been talking about pornography and the effects. My little advice for you, if you're either caught up in it, it's a decision. You make a choice. It's just like anything in life. You can stop it. And if you have not gone into it and you're just curious, stay away from it, because it's one of those things that will never add value to your life. Just take away. Have a good night. God bless. And from all the team here at the Sheraton Kampala Hotel and Obulamu, take care and God bless.